Hey guys, welcome to my channel. I go by Hiram or Bogwa. Hey guys, welcome back. So today I'll be continuing with the object-oriented programming concepts. So the first one that I started covering was encapsulation, and today we'll be looking at inheritance. So when it comes to inheritance, it's one of the fundamental concepts of object-oriented design, whereby one class acquires properties from another class. And with that, we'll go ahead and look at a code example. So I'll start by creating a new project. And I'll go ahead and create the package. And then next, I'll create my runner class. And then print out a statement. Okay, so now I'll create a new package. I'll call it users. And then in here, I'll define 4 different classes. So the first thing that I'll do is define some users properties. Okay, and then I'll go ahead and create my getter setters. And there you go. We have our users object. And I'll do the same for the other classes. Okay, so now as you might have already guessed, when we talked about inheritance, when I give the definition of inheritance, I say it's the concept where one class inherits properties from another class. And as you can see, these fields are common and can be applied to the teacher, student, and admin class. For example, you can see a teacher having a first name and a last name. Same thing for a student, same thing for an admin, and them having a unique ID and also identifying when they were born. I'll show you now how these 3 classes can inherit these 4 properties from this user object. So now this is the change that we make to our class definition. It now reads public class teacher extends user, and this extends is what allows us to grab those properties from the user object. So I'll do the same for the other classes. So now all these three objects have these four properties now. We can test that out in the runner class. And as you can see now in the student class, we have this set properties which are located in the user class. So if I control click, we'll go to the user class where we're able to set those fields. So here I'll do student set first name. I also define the other objects. So now let's try printing that data out. So now something else that I want to show you is that you do still have access to your other fields. So for example, here if we come to the student, we can still set courses. So you still have access to the unique fields to that class, and also like grade. And that's the same with all these other objects. So for example, if we look at teacher, that's it. Again, you have courses. I'm not gonna bother setting all of this. You can try it out yourself. Have fun with it, experiment, try setting all the different fields. But with that, I'll go ahead and run this class just to show you that the output works and that we're able to inherit fields from the user's object in the teacher, student, and admin class. And there you go. This is our output. So we're able to get that student name, teacher name, and admin ID by accessing it through the subclasses. And that's the appropriate word to use. It's these are subclasses, and this is what would be considered a superclass. So now let's say, for example, the user's class has a constructor. Now remember, I've covered constructors. If you haven't seen my constructors video, I'll put the link in the bio for you to check out. So now let's say, for example, we define a constructor here in the user object, and then say we want to take this as parameters. Now, as you can see here, I'm setting all those fields. And remember what I told you about this keyword. This keyword references the properties in this class. So if I don't utilize this keyword, it's not going to know the difference between both of them. It's going to say I'm setting the same field to the same data. So which is why you have to use this keyword to reference the properties of this class, of the user class. But now, as you can see, we have 3 errors, and those errors, you can already guess, they're coming from the teacher, student, and admin objects. So we'll go ahead and fix that. With IntelliJ, I can just hover over this error and create a constructor. Now, as you can see, what's happening here is now we're forced to pass these parameters to the super object. Now, the user class is the super object. So, which is why we use this super syntax. This is what we use to call the constructor of the user's object. Whenever the upper class defines a constructor and forces the subclass to utilize that constructor, in the subclass's constructor, the first thing that we must do is call that superclass constructor. So again, in the subclass constructor, the first thing we must do is call that super constructor, which is why we have to call it here. So now you see we have 2 errors, not 3. So now I can define my teacher and I'll pass those fields to the superclass. I'll do the same for the student. So now we have to fix our app runner. So now here, whenever we define a new student, we pass a name. So F name. Okay, let's compile it and run it. And there you go. You have student, teacher, admin. Again, that's because I passed student, teacher, and admin in the constructors. In the admin, teacher, and student constructor. So again, covering the benefits of utilizing inheritance is that it allows us to extrapolate properties. It will not make sense to have these properties in these other 3 objects if we have the ability to extrapolate them and put them in one object and then extend that object. But then again, it also has to make sense. A simple test that you can do to see if inheritance apply is the is a test. Again, you can say a teacher is a user, a student is a user, an admin is a user. Make sure that you have a is a relationship with those objects. And with that, I'll leave this there and see you next time. Thank you for watching my tutorials. Give it a thumbs up if you like it and subscribe if you haven't. And also check me out on Instagram at coderush.io.